Welcome to the Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I'm your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Kathleen Murphy from Kathleen Murphy Landscape Design. And Kathleen's got a great story. It's quite a unique one where she was working in the industry for 20 years or 20 plus years doing landscape design, and then decided she needed to change, wasn't sure what she was going to do, and then has started a online course teaching people about the way to design gardens the way she's done it over that time period. And she's got a course called Design Your Dream Garden. So we talked plenty about that in this chat, partially because I was also interested in, the nuts and bolts of how she's doing that course so that I can understand about it for my course. And in regards to her course, there's also something that excites me very much, which is a discount code that I've got specifically for the podcast. So if you like what you hear and then want to learn more about it and sign up to her course, then use the code Joel20, you get 20% off. And there's also a link in the subscription, which will do the same. That'll give you 20% off as well. But she also touches on some learnings that she had when she was running her own business and the benefits of working on the business, not in the business, and also the importance of relationships with other trades. So, plenty of value design wise and course wise from Kathleen in this episode. So, hopefully, you enjoy the chat with Kathleen Murphy. Kathleen, thank you for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Well, thanks for having me. I started probably as a mature age student, really. I had actually gone to university, studied economics, and then moved into an arts degree, realised I couldn't get a job, and then went and studied HR, human resources. So I worked in that for a number of years, and it was probably when I was around 28 or so, 29, that I realised that, that wasn't going to be a long-term career for me, because back then you had to be close to a big city, and I knew that I wanted to be in a rural area. And I was traveling a lot, and I hadn't had a family at that stage, but I knew that's what I would like. So I suppose I was just trying to set my future up. And as it would be, the universe works in funny ways, but I was working for Enterprise Ireland in Dublin. My husband is Irish, so we'd been living over there for about 7 years. And I noticed they had a horticultural college there. So I basically quit my day job and I went into being a full-time student and studied there and absolutely loved it. I did do a lot of, short courses, feeling my way through night classes before I actually, took the big step to go full time into study.
Were they horticulture short courses that you were doing?
Yeah, just little short courses in anything to do with gardens and horticulture. For maybe about 3 or 4 years at night time, I would do little things. And I loved every single one of them. So I knew that it was for me. I didn't know how I would go financial wise, because horticulture and HR play quite differently. But anyway, I worked that one out. And then I worked for a landscape architect, and that's where I learnt how to use AutoCAD.
Was that in Dublin that you worked for
That was
landscape?
in Dublin, yeah. So I sort of worked with a few landscapers as well, and that was interesting. So I found then that there's no way I can do full-time construction. My body just wasn't able for it. And I thought, okay, I really do love the design is more my thing. So that's when I sort of specialized in that. I came back to Australia and I just went straight into design, working for myself because I was heavily pregnant and I didn't really feel that employable. And so I just sort of started, through word of mouth. I did contact a number of town planners and, people in the industry, builders, and I did a lot of commercial work to begin with, commercial landscape design.
So how long were you at the landscape architects in Dublin for?
I was probably nearly 2 years, actually, yeah. So I was lucky to get my foot in the door because my degree isn't a landscape architect, and that's, what they had there. But I sort of did a bit of a deal with them. I said that I would help them with a restructure and the job specs for their positions, because it was growing quite a lot, the company. And then that's how I got my foot in the door. I think I made 20 phone calls before they actually accepted me.
All right, just harassing them.
I harassed them.
That's
So
good. Yeah, you do what it takes.
I think you have to do that a bit in business. Don't you find that yourself? That you've got to be determined.
Sometimes, yeah, there's times where it works and times where it doesn't. So, and that can be for the same company as well. Like there might be a time where they are open to that kind of thing, and then there
Mm.
might be a time where that pisses them
Yeah,
off.
it might
Or
not
they say,
work.
stop,
Mm.
stop annoying me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, I find that's sort of my action as well. I would contact people if I want something. I'm not just
Yeah.
going to like send them a letter or an email once and then hope they get back to me? You follow
Yeah.
up and
And like I have a lot of students who will email me like a standard letter that they've issued to 100 different companies. Well, that doesn't interest me. The ones who contact me and are, really engaging, I'm more responsive to. So anyway, that's how I started to get my experience up.
yeah, and it doesn't need to be like a really specific like letter like that you only need to change a few things in it. It sounds a little bit more tailored to the person you're contacting. So you
Yeah, and
can
I think
still
with AI, it's just been lazy if you if you're not going to give it a little bit of a tweak.
yeah.
But yeah, so then I basically built up my own studio, and I've been doing that for maybe nearly 20 years or more. And so, I had a small group of 4 people working for me doing designs. And then in 2023, I pivoted my business to completely online.
All right. So what area were you living in when you were doing those designs?
Yeah, so that was in the Macedon Ranges. So I still have a house there that I Airbnb and a garden studio, but I don't take on any individual projects anymore. So I disbanded my team. So they went off to, one formed her own company. All they just I sort of transitioned for the last 6 months of 2022. So I had sort of been booked up with work for about a year and a half, and I finished off the projects that I was working on. And then I sort of called people who I'd, taken payment from, gave money back, and
All
yeah,
right.
so it was pretty, it was probably one of the scarier moments. I think any big decision that you make in life is scary at the time. It felt very scary at the time to do it, but it felt like I didn't know where I was heading. I didn't think at that stage that I was going to do an online course and teach what I know in a framework. I just knew that I needed to shake things up and have a change.
All right. What was it that made you decide to change things up?
Yeah, probably a few things. A perfect storm occurred where my husband got a job down where we're living now in Inverloch. So he got a job for a water company down here, and he was commuting a lot. And my kids were also teenagers, and I was running the business, and it was just really full on. And I was also during COVID, as we were a regional, the Macedon Ranges was regional, we could actually still operate quite a lot as normal. We were different to the other landscapers. We had a lot of site meetings outside. And so we were really, really busy, and it never stopped. So I suppose I was a little bit burnt out, and the amount of paperwork and design detail that I was used to providing was quite draining. You're always, every week is another delivery of another big project, and you've got staff to pay. You always pay them first before you pay yourself. Just the normal things to running a business. I'd been doing it a long time, and I'd finally actually got up to the stage where I was profitable and my design fees were decent. Doesn't it always happen? Yeah. So that
Yeah,
was,
that's yeah. We're like I'm in Geelong, so it was the same for us during COVID. So and
mm,
like people say, oh, it must have been bad for you. So no, I think there was actually 8 days throughout the whole thing that we couldn't work. Like
yeah.
and that's it, and the rest of it was flat out because you didn't know what was going to happen. So anytime you had free, you just worked like a
Yeah,
maniac,
that's
really.
right. I had probably had an inkling for a few years that I'd been ignoring that, I probably needed to take things a little bit slower, but my nature is probably to go a bit full on. And I do love business and I do love garden design. So it's a passion and a career. So maybe I wasn't always balanced in that approach,
Yeah,
you
join the
know.
club.
Yeah.
But
So
I imagine it would have been hard, especially having the projects booked in already that you're taking deposits for, not to just say, oh, I'll just do these ones. I'll
that
just
was
pick them up.
really hard. And I did toy with keeping 5 big ones on that, I would have loved to have, had my name to. And, they were really interesting projects. But then 6 months later, no, I knew that my heart wouldn't have been in it. So I
Yeah.
just, yeah. And I think everyone was pretty understanding actually. So that was great. I was
Did
really
you
fortunate.
find other designers? So you said like I can't do it, but this person said they can take
Yeah,
it on.
exactly. So I would refer through to, there's lots of fantastic designers around. So, and I still do, like lots of people ask me now, will I do their project? And no, I just refer them on to other people.
So
So
so now you're still doing designs online, are you? Or,
I'm not doing any designs online. What it is I teach, my signature program is called Design Your Dream Garden. And it's basically 10 modules that I've already pre-recorded with resources, and they do that self-paced, and it takes them through the framework that when I had students come to my office, I would teach them this process. It would be my unique process. It wouldn't be all what you'd learnt at uni. It was a bit different about how I would tackle a project, a garden when I saw it for the first time. What are the steps that I would do? And I teach that to homeowners. And surprisingly, but not, I suppose I should have, thought of it, but a lot of people who are new to horticulture and are wanting to get into the industry, they're also joining the program because it's nearly like having that work experience that you would have got in a studio. That's hard to get.
Mm.
So, I share all of my resources that I've curated over the years and plant combinations and everything like that. And they also, each fortnight for 12 weeks, so there's 6 Zooms, I actually review their plans and give them feedback. So that in essence is probably the part of the design that I'm still doing. I'm reviewing people's projects and, coming up with suggestions of, would you consider this? Or, if they're really on the wrong track, I'll do a overlay of trace paper and sort out the shapes and get it flowing nicely for them.
Yeah. So did
Yeah.
you have that idea of the online course for a while before?
No, no. When I decided to change my business, I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I needed some reflection time. And I had this sort of, I suppose, intuition that I knew something would come to me, but I didn't know what that would be. And I thought, I'll just take 12 months off and I'll figure it out. But, 3 months in, I was bored and it came to me. So, yeah.
And then how long did it take after thinking this is what I'm going to do
Yeah,
to
I did have a business coach then. So once I realized that I wanted to do an online program, I hired a business coach and I did a course to teach you how to do it. And that was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever done, really, because writing a succinct framework, bite-sized pieces of information that's teachable and comes to a logic conclusion where they get something at the end, which for me, it's a scaled garden concept plan with my lens. So the way that I design, so that it has that look and feel, took me about 5 months to write. And that was me doing it full time every day. I don't think I ever worked harder in my life.
And was that
So
business coach, have they got experience with online courses?
yeah, that's what they specialize in.
Oh,
Yep. So her name was Claire Leroy from the Little Design Corner. She's an interior designer. Yeah, that was invaluable actually. She's just really, really wise. And I still have her as a coach at the moment. So I'm in a coaching program. I think she might open it up again. It's closed at the moment, but she'll probably open it up again. And that's more the business side of running an online business that I'm getting support with.
yeah.
So
There's,
yeah,
I'm just going to find her name because there's someone who's got a podcast who I listen to, and she talks all about business, about online courses. Amy
yeah.
Cornfield, have you
Oh
followed?
yeah, yeah. I do follow her. Yeah, she's
Because
very
that
good.
sounds like she's listened to her as well, because she talks
She's
about
actually, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think she's gone through her program, so same, a protege of her probably.
yeah,
But so I think you sort of need to find your mentors out there, whether they're in person or online.
because I find it like, she talks about how everyone struggles to think about it at the start, but the fact of closing down your program,
Yeah,
access to your course for certain periods of time seems counterproductive to me. I don't
yeah,
think that works.
yeah. I don't do that. I sort of I keep it live so they can
Yeah,
join at any time, and then 3 times a year there'll be a cohort that if they want to go with a group of people, they can then do it. And most people seem to want to do it in a group. So, yeah, so we've had around, 200 or so people through, and they come from all around Australia. And the intention is to make it international because everything is teachable, I think. And it's just then connecting with horticulturists around the world to curate your plant list.
yeah.
So I sort of feel like, and I've been on, international garden programs as well. So I've made sort of connections around that. I feel like, yes, I'll bed down what I can do here in Australia and get that all working well. And then maybe, yeah,
Have you had any
expand.
students from overseas yet?
I've had a lot of people interested from California and Texas, similar climates to ourselves. I've had people wanting me to do designs for them, and I've done overseas designs. but I haven't actually had anyone through the course yet from overseas. So I'm sure it's going to happen. It's just, it's the planting part that they probably get scared of. But I feel like I can bridge that gap with the
Yeah.
right people.
Yeah, and that's something that's going to be different for even people within the same state. Like it
Yeah,
differs so
absolutely.
much.
Yeah. I think what it is there's a skill that you need to learn if even if you're a landscaper and you're not designing, but there's a framework of approaching a site, and you'll find that the more you in landscaping, it's the same thing. You'll approach it quite methodically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes with experience a lot too as well, so which is hard to teach in a
Yeah.
course, and especially when
Yeah.
you've got DIY people doing it.
Yeah. So I probably encourage people to look at their site, and then once they've got the plan and it's to scale and they've worked out the look and feel, they can still then give that to a landscaper, still be involved, take off parts that they want to do, but recognize where the skill is required,
Yeah.
and I think that gets a great result then.
Yeah. So was the launch day a big day, or you just sort of released it and then gradually started promoting it?
No, it was a big day. In fact, I pushed it out by a month because my first launch date, I got sick. Of course, I was, overworking and I got the flu and I lost my voice when I was meant to be recording and, all of that. Then subsequently, now it's a lot simpler and you're always tweaking your program. So let's say in probably about 4 months' time, I'll re-record everything again
Yeah,
and,
right.
survey participants and try and keep making it easier for them and answer that, tweak it.
Yeah. So how long
You're
has it
never
been out
finished.
for?
It's been out since September 23.
Yeah. And that
So,
would be the first major sort of re-recording that you'll do?
I've done half of it already because I got feedback that I had done like a Notion dashboard, which is like Airtable or whatever, but people were finding that's another piece of technology to know. So I just scrapped that then and I re-recorded and just loaded everything up as PDFs for their downloadable resources and just simplified it. So basically, they're not learning AutoCAD or anything. They're just simply learning how to create a survey, a base plan, a mud map, and then a scaled concept plan.
So they can do it like hand drawing or whatever
They
they
can do
want.
it hand drawing. That's what I'm encouraging.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you do
So
much of that when you were starting out?
I didn't know because I can't draw, so I always went straight to the computer. But now, probably later on, when I had a team of people, it was quicker for me to hand draw quickly what I wanted and then give it to them to do up on CAD.
Yep.
So, yeah. And now I find the process actually works really nice. It's an easy, great process to teach someone.
Yeah. And have you had many people wanting to like trying to do an actual design off CAD?
No, I haven't actually. Some people have asked, could they learn more how to put it into 3D? But now with AI, once you've got your plan to scale and you've collected all your images, you can upload that now to AI and it can do a 3D render of it, a 3D model. Now, it won't be good enough for you to construct off, but it will give you the look and feel and you can play around with things. Now, you can go through a rabbit hole and come up with something that looks completely stupid. But let's say, for instance, I did this with a student. They really wanted a traditional English style garden, and I was trying to get them to introduce more Australian natives, but I don't think I was having much luck influencing them. So then I just popped all their work because I'd already had the scale concept plan, the images, and we popped it into AI and it came out with an image that looked really good for one section of the garden, just a corner, not the whole lot. And then I popped in the plants that I would like to see in there and it did a great render. I actually thought it was nicer in that way. So that's a way of influencing them, I suppose, or they can try out different looks. So I don't think now with AI moving so quickly, the world of SketchUp and things like that is still important, but I don't know. It's moving so quick.
Is there a particular program that you used for that?
In the past, we used SketchUp.
For the
Yeah.
AI to
Oh, no, just I think I pay $30 a month for it.
all right. And that's just ChatGPT, is it?
Yeah.
Oh
And
wow.
now there are other ones like Mid Journey. There's quite a lot out there now that you can actually do that in.
Yep.
So would I learn SketchUp? I don't think I would. I think not for me right now. Maybe if I was starting garden design, I might, but yeah.
Yeah, that's something I'm fascinated to see what happens with is like how much easier it will be for people to design their own project, like
Yeah,
using AI, like within a few years, you would think.
I think so. The only thing is that it doesn't give you, and last night I had a group Zoom and one of the girls had popped in her plan that she was looking at for her kids' play area, and it looked fantastic, but in reality, the scale wasn't right. So, you still have to be clued in enough. So I would still rely on a scale ruler, having your plan to scale, and then using AI as a tool of helping you, sort of like as a thinking partner, not as the designer.
Yep. It's similar to like just 3D renders that get done, like real fancy ones. They're still not
Yeah.
100% right, but they give you a bit of an idea on how it's going to look.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, and then I just, plan on doing, I've got another little mini course which is on native boundary screening. So I noticed on rural properties, people don't really understand that how you plant up a large property, not in a garden setting, but in, let's say, shelter belts and things like that, it's quite different. So I've just created a little mini course on that, and I've got another little mini course that comes out in probably July, end of July, which is all about just, it's called plant selection, but it's plant selection just for a garden bed. So some people who don't want to overhaul their whole garden, but they've just got a specific area, it addresses that particular need.
So is that teaching them things about like planting in threes and odd numbers and that kind of thing?
Um, yeah, a little bit more than that. It really is teaching them the fundamentals of how do you set up for a garden bed to look good, because lots of them look really bitsy.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really getting clear on your design intent for that space.
And do you have like other ideas swirling around in your head, think, oh, could add this to the course and could add
Yeah,
this?
I do. I mean, people have asked me for, how to install your dream garden course, a follow on.
Coming
So
soon, this.
yeah, so that's a natural one. I think I'd probably do it from the perspective different to what you're exploring, because you've got the knowledge of how to actually, build the arbor, and that mine is sort of design, and I do know construction, but I wouldn't have that skill set the same as you. Mine might be more about how do you work with a landscape professional, and how do you project manage your build and take off pieces, and how do you manage the budget, and how do you have that relationship go well on site. Because I find, well, I think probably maybe my HR helped, but I really felt like the design was one part, but the success happened on site.
Yep.
You're only as good as the person installing, and then you need to have that relationship right.
Yeah, and it's yeah, the communication between the two is really important as well because
Mm,
things change every single time on site compared to what the plan shows.
yeah. And simple things like, clients will also ask a lot of a landscaper and make variations on the spot, and then be surprised when they get a variation, fee. So my job as a designer was always to educate them that we have a process for seeking variations, and we have a sign off on the price, and we communicate. So I suppose I'm going to teach people in the Install Your Dream Gardens program that process, and educate them to the price of things, and then also educate them to the things that I would give to a landscaper and that I wouldn't shortchange, and explain how a quote works and all of that sort of stuff.
Yep. And have you
So,
found did you have a particular um clientele in mind who you thought would be interested in the course and then it's been different from people who are
mm,
actually buying it?
um, well, when I first was doing the course, it was interesting. I actually had two programs that I was going to do. I didn't know which one to go with, so I went with, teaching homeowners how to design. But my other one was going to teach people new to the industry how to run a garden design business. But I sort of thought, well, do you know what? My heart is probably more in the designing and helping homeowners, because I found that throughout like the 20 years of designing, I said no to heaps of work, because when you're running a business, you've got to run a profitable business. So, you know, customers who didn't have the budget for the full install, they then couldn't really justify paying my design fees. So I felt like there was a whole part of the market that I wasn't servicing, but they deserve to have a beautiful garden, but it just might be on a different time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, I say it a lot to people that not everyone is your client and not every designer is your designer. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, you just got to find the right one and you might be your
Yeah.
own designer. Yeah, that might be the best option for you.
Yeah. So I suppose I've really shifted my, the course is really for a different type of client that I normally didn't design for, really.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of people who, have got a decent budget on the course. It's sort of for all budgets, but there is a lot more new homeowners and that sort of thing.
Yep. Yeah, I started up a mailing list for mine, and I was just blown away at how many women have signed up to it. It's like 40% women, which I didn't expect at all. But then
You
that's
know,
the good thing about that is that's kind of made me think differently. Like the good thing about doing it while I'm still making the course is I can still think about it differently and sort of not just assume
yeah.
it's only guys.
And Joel, I'm not surprised because the landscapers who I formed a really good relationship with, they were the landscapers who really treated women respectfully and that I could ask any of the questions and they didn't make me feel like, dumb.
Yeah.
And that makes you a better designer. It makes a better job on site. So in the past, and I think it's changing a lot, but there was a real blokey feel to landscaping. And, women would often say to me, oh, either they turned up late when when it was quoting, they only wanted to, install what they wanted to do. And they sort of, women felt a little bit pushed around a bit. Now that is changed a lot, but there is still a little bit of that in the industry, I think.
Yeah, I think there always will be because there's always bad apples in every bunch. So,
Yeah,
there's good people and bad people. So,
yeah. And
um,
I think women have got a real, like, they're passionate gardeners and they actually have a real can-do attitude. So they would love to be able to do some parts or even understand the process.
yeah.
So, yeah, I find it super interesting. I love watching YouTube construction videos.
Yeah, and again, something that surprised me, which wouldn't surprise you based on where you've lived and grown up, was the amount of rural people interested in it as well. And then it makes like again because I'm not from there, it didn't cross my mind at all. But it makes so much sense. Like part of what I'm teaching is like how to mix your own concrete, and then I
Yeah,
was almost not going to do that because of what as I was filming it, I thought this is such a pain in the ass and so much work. Why
yeah.
wouldn't you just get a truck? But then I thought, well, not everyone can just get a truck.
No, that's what I can't believe, how many people are from, sheep stations and everything
Yeah.
like that on my course. There's lots from the city as well, but, they express how hard it is to get any trade.
Yep, exactly.
So they have to figure out a way of doing it themselves. So we have to come up with designs that actually they can install because there's no option.
Yeah, yeah. You can't be designing these fancy works that you need a
Yeah,
specialist.
that's right. And they don't have the budget to, put up landscapers and all that, because a bigger garden, a bigger budget, they would just fly everyone in and, it would just, but the cost would be crazy.
Yeah, that'd be
So,
nice.
yeah. So when are we going to expect to see your course up and running?
Well, I'm actually working on it today. The day this comes out, I'm doing a day working back on it again. So I reckon it's been 12 months since I've done anything on it potentially.
Yeah.
At least 9 months. But yeah, just been actually like if I had have had someone, you know, send me heaps of money so I could just work on it,
Yes.
I could have done it. But even then,
Yeah,
like you said, it took 5 months when you
I
were doing it
did.
like that. So I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot more work than I thought, but I'm getting close to being able to do it. But I'm doing a garden sh at the doing a build at the garden show next year, which is going to be sponsored by the landscaping school. So
Yes.
it'll definitely be finished before then. But
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, good.
hoping spring this year.
Yeah.
So then I
Oh,
can yeah have it out and
people will love it. It will be such a great resource for them. It'll be awesome.
yeah.
You know,
The thing I feel bad about is that what I had a few people asking me if there's anywhere where they can learn certain elements of construction, which is what got me to start thinking about it at the start. But they could have just about done a full apprenticeship by now since it's been that long since they asked me. It's been like 2 years. So
but the process is harder than what you expect. It was a lot harder for me as well because not only do you have to write everything down and curate it all, which is a lot of information. You then have to record it, edit it.
Hmm.
If you don't, if you're doing all of that yourself, so there's all these new things that you're learning technology wise. I probably couldn't have done it without a coach guiding me as to the steps. So, I joined a program that taught me how to do it step by
Yeah.
step.
Yeah, I was looking at doing that, and whoever I was looking at, I can't remember if it was, yeah, I can't remember who it was, if it was Amy Porterfield or someone who she taught, but
Yeah.
it was a women only thing, so I couldn't do it anyway.
Oh, okay.
It seems like a very strong sector is doing online courses for women.
Yeah, I can sort of see why in some ways, because design is more heavily female, isn't it? So, and
Yeah.
this is now design is now moving online a lot, has last few years quite quickly. But yeah, I suppose it's in other industries as well.
But it's also because it's something that like a lot of mums might start doing it as well, or they're not
Yeah,
working
because it's
full-time
flexible
hours.
time-wise, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
flexible. I think if I was having my business again, and this is probably something for your listeners, that if you're new to business and you're new to horticulture, I would reflect on future proofing, and because there's a period with a lot of landscapers, just from people that I know of, that by the time they get to 55, their body's getting tired. And so either they have a big enough company that they don't have to be on the tools, or they have to sort of pivot. And so I would think if you're a young person going into the industry, I would set yourself up to still keep abreast of the technology and start to maybe create a second stream of income. I don't know, get creative. Yeah, I think it's important going forward.
Well, that's exactly what I'm doing because there's that, and also I've been doing more designs as well because yeah, I can't do construction for the rest of my life, so I
No, yeah,
need to do
that's
something
right.
else.
So that's where it's fantastic, and COVID made everything in some ways, it's created this pivot as well for everyone
Yeah,
onto the online space. So,
yeah. There's people who are doing like they're designers and they still do design, but they're purely online design as well. So
yeah,
and
that's
that's
right. There's virtual design, isn't there?
yeah,
And I mean, I didn't think of doing that when I started my business. I hadn't really explored that as an option.
yeah. I thought that's what you meant by what you're doing.
Yeah, no, no, I hadn't really gone down that road. I still like the fun of business, the game of business. I do like that part of it. And I feel like in the past, when I was running a studio, I was so stuck in the doing that I didn't actually take many days during a month to actually work on the business. I was always in it.
Yeah.
So I sort of made a promise to myself when I, changed, that I'm actually going to spend a lot more time working on the business.
Did you ever have a business coach when you were in design?
No, no, I didn't. Oh, well, yes and no. One or two consultants every now and then. But no, I was just so focused on working and doing stuff,
Mm.
getting drawings out. I think if I had my time again, I would definitely change that.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to do that when you've got no employees as well. Like when you get employees, then that you feel like you're under more pressure to keep, turning the funds over.
That's right. Yeah. You're feeding the beast, and
Yeah,
they're asking you questions, and you've got to get, yeah. So yeah, that I suppose has been a big learning too.
yeah. And did you have a lot of contacts within the industry who you kind of bounce ideas off and learn from them?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate that in the Macedon Ranges, we informally created our own garden design group.
Ah,
So we've got people from Shepparton, from all over, not just the Macedon Ranges. We just connected with people. Oh, such and such works by themselves. Let's invite them to lunch. So every 3 months or so, we meet up and we might either visit one of their gardens, or, yeah, we meet up. And it's been really, really good. We pass on jobs, or, if we've had an experience with a landscaper that hasn't been great, or no one's used them before, we sort of feed and talk amongst ourselves. And we'll also refer on, like, if you meet someone, a potential client, but you're not the right fit for them, I'll say, listen, they're a really nice person, but they're not really into my style of gardens. I really think they'd probably be more suited to you. Yeah, we do that all the time as well.
and you're still part of that group? They didn't kick you
Yeah,
out when
yeah,
you
absolutely. I won't be leaving it. They're
stopped?
stuck with me.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's one of those things because I used to do that as well. Like I'd have people contact me saying, we want a 100% native garden. I thought, it's not really my style. Like there's better designers to get for who that
Yeah,
is their bread and butter. That's like they're
yeah,
obsessed with it. So I could do it, but you're going to get a better result using this person, so use them. But
yeah,
then I've just done one which was not pretty much all native except one plant. And I loved it. Like just the variety of plants that are natives that you can use is insane.
yeah. That's great. I think also we're using them in different ways now. So I don't think I've ever really, maybe a few times, done a completely native garden. I have a native look to my gardens,
Yep.
but I'm using plants from all over the world.
Yeah.
I just try and use plants that are appropriate to the site, basically.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
something I would usually ask the client is what it is, why they want a native garden. Like, what is it about it? Like, is it they're not just racist against all the other plants, they're actually
yeah,
wanting, a certain look. So then it doesn't matter
yeah.
where they come from.
That's right. Yeah. I think it is the look, yeah. And I think that's probably one of the things too that for businesses starting out, Instagram and having some professional photographs, they're really important things for a business to invest in.
Yep.
And I couldn't sort of, recommend that enough to people because I know you can take a decent photograph yourself, but, you know, professional photographers come with a PR agency basically. They're going to put you in magazines and do more with it than just those photographs.
And did you start doing that early on, or is that something you learned on?
I probably started doing it, yeah, within maybe 5 years of being in business.
Yep.
And then every year I will invest in it and I'll spend quite a lot of money on it. But I do it for myself because it's lovely to have beautiful photographs of jobs as a reward to myself for the hard work. But then the rest is also as part of the publicity of trying to, build a business and get your name out there.
Yeah, that's one of
So
the hard things when you're starting a design business is taking those photos when the plants go in and they're just in 6-inch pots and this is going to be
that is
awesome
really
in
hard
5
because
years.
you're in business for a few years before you've got anything decent to show.
Yeah.
That's where I suppose if you could do your own garden, that's you've got more access. And every now and then you do a fantastic garden and the client definitely doesn't want any photographs anywhere and they're very private. So you think, oh no, I'd love to,
They're the best ones usually.
celebrate it. But anyway,
Yeah. So when you did have your business going, how did you like find landscapers? Was it talking to those other designers about who they used, or is just trial and error?
you know what? Maybe I would hound people. I would find a garden that I would drive past and I loved it. And I would find out who constructed the stone wall. I would just research and then I just would invite them to go for a coffee and have a chat with them. And yeah, and I still keep in contact with them. We're great friends. I think that's really important, actually. A designer, you really need to develop your relationships with the trades and respect that skill set and also let them have input. So I sort of feel like I set up a process early on in my business that we would have a kickoff meeting. So let's say they've quoted for a job. I then would, as a designer, review that quote before it would go to the client. And I would make sure that they've included everything that needed to be included because a lot of landscapers, the back office work isn't their strength. So in some ways, I'd fill that gap. I would review everything, and sure enough, they'd have left lots of things out. And then they would be grateful that I go back and I say, listen, can you include this, this, and this? I want to see it detailed on the quote. And they go, oh, I didn't even consider that, or I missed out on that. So that was good because then they trusted me to look out for them. And then the client trusted me to, if something looked a bit silly price wise, I would say, listen, what's going on here? You know, we never get a quote in for that, price for that type of thing. And then they'll say, oh, but this, and this. And if it's reasonable, I'd say, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. So then the client gets the quote and all parties feel happy that they're being looked after because they have to run a profitable business at the end of the day, the landscaper. And I had learned early on in a job where a landscaper went broke on a job that I designed. And that sort of broke my heart a bit, a lot. It was hard to see, but it was his back office that let him down. And, he was really skilled. So, yeah, so that's one of the things. that
Well,
I sort of try and do, or that I did in the past.
yeah. Did you provide plants?
Yeah, I did the plants and would do the plant set out a lot of times, and sometimes the planting up as well. Yeah, if I could.
Yep.
There wouldn't be much profit in a garden design business really without doing the plants, you
Same in
know?
construction.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's probably one of the things that you sort of I would they would still get it cheaper than the nursery. So my thing would be they'd always get it at least 10% cheaper than the nursery. So it would just be worth their while going through me. But yeah. And early on in the days I actually used to give them the full discount, but then I just wasn't becoming profitable at all. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And was that something you learned hard at the start with how much you're charging for designs as well?
Oh, completely. I used to keep a list of hours and then divide up what my rate was, and I was like $20 an hour many years ago at the start. I'm like, what am I doing? Years of experience. And then I just, as I got more booked up, I just kept upping my fees,
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
and then by the end, my minimum sort of design fee was probably around $10,000 and probably went up to maybe 30,000, depends on how big the project was. Let's say that on average, it probably hovered around 15, 18,000. But
Yeah.
that was equivalent, always 100 hours of work. Like there was a lot of time and effort and a lot of detail in that.
Yeah. The most expensive one I've done was 16 grand. I thought, oh, that's a lot. I'm going to do really well here. And I
Mm.
didn't even make any money on that one. It's just
No,
like no profit on it. It was just that's how long it took the designer to do it. So yeah, you think
yeah,
it sounds like it is a lot of money, but
it
it's a
is a
lot
lot
of
of
time.
money, but you're dealing with assets of multi-million dollar properties. So in the whole scheme of things, the design install for some of these big gardens may be 500,000, a million, $1.5 million. So it's not a lot of money compared to the architect and what they would charge. So it's still really good value. We just don't have in the industry that sort of tradition of charging that much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's not many that do. There's like a handful basically that do.
Yeah.
And there's,
So yeah, but it's all learning, isn't it? You don't know it at the beginning. I would definitely recommend keeping a time track
yeah, yeah,
so that you can that gives you the confidence then to up your price.
yeah. And you know what your chart like what you're charging is fair as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
'Cause no, I
So
don't think anyone's going to do it and think, oh, I didn't realize I'm charging $500 an hour. It probably won't work out like that.
I don't think I've ever got $500 an hour. So,
No.
yeah, no.
Yeah, again, I keep going back to it, but that would have made it even harder for you to knock back those projects that you already had booked in and give them their money
It
back.
was really hard, but there's something about your intuition that you've got to listen to eventually, I think. And that's with life in with everything. So I'm really delighted that I did because I feel like I've had a new lease on life.
Mm.
Like, I feel like I'm going into the next stage of, yeah, really motivated again and, excited about what I'm learning. And I actually really love helping people. And I love now that they're constructing their gardens. And yeah, it feels really good to be able to give back, and you can sort of see that you are changing how people, enjoy their gardens.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm most looking forward to is seeing people send me photos of what they do
Yeah,
after doing the course.
yeah,
And I
it's
watched your video as well, like the preview video, and
yeah,
you mentioned in that you're available to the students as well as one of the benefits, and I think
yeah,
that's a key thing to do it. So it's not just they're not just buying a course, and then if something's confusing, there's no one who can answer their questions.
yeah. Community actually is the thing that they seem to like the most.
Yep.
So they've got a group Facebook page where it's a closed group that they're a part of to ask any questions, and then they've got the group Zooms. But yeah, they also communicate like a lot to each other. And what I really love recently in one of the mini courses I did, one of the students saw a better way of presenting my plant database that I have, and they did up a Excel spreadsheet with a great dashboard and all this stuff happening behind the scenes. And then she shares it onto the group.
Yeah. Awesome.
So that then I add to the program, it makes it better, and someone else added to that. I'm like, so we're sort of leveraging everyone's learning,
Yep.
and I love that part.
Mm. And what
You know,
program is it that you use for yours? 'Cause that's
I
something
use
I'm still
I
looking
use
into.
Kajabi.
Oh yeah.
Have you heard of Kajabi? So it
Yeah.
is expensive, but it's excellent.
Yeah, I've heard you get what you pay for with it. So
Yeah,
it's
it's really good. I was tempted with Teachable or something like that, but I just went on the recommendation of the coach and I thought, I was used to investing in myself and in my business. So I didn't shy away from it. I just thought, no, you just do it right from the beginning and set yourself up. And I think that's paid off.
and was it easy to upload all your stuff to it?
Yeah, it was actually because again, I had this course that was broken down step by step, so I wasn't having to figure it out for myself. Yeah, it is. It's pretty simple, but I would still get a step by step process.
As in, what do you mean?
Well, there's I would I'll send you a link of a course, but Claire Leroy does a course called Online Course Creator or something, and I would buy that program
Yeah. And is
100%.
that teaches you how to break your course up into pieces, or
Yeah,
and to
everything.
use a certain like Kajabi or something
Yes, to
specific?
use Kajabi, and every single thing that you have to do is outlined.
Yep.
So you just follow through, and it will just help you, Joel, get your delivery right.
Yeah.
So that's really valuable. And for anyone listening, if people have got these ideas, seek out the experts because you're going to fluff around yourself. For $1,000 or $2,000, you're going to have a roadmap.
Yep. And did your coach talk to you about how much you should charge for your course?
No, I think, a lot of people were charging a lot less, but one, I suppose I give a lot of service where I'm overlooking their plans and I've got the Zooms and giving a lot of all my intellectual property is in that program.
Mm.
Yeah, so I just thought, well, I feel like, and the feedback so far from people is that it's well worth the investment. So I feel confident that, they certainly get their money's worth. If I was doing a site consult, I wouldn't go out to someone's house for less than $500 for an hour.
Yep.
So, yeah, I might not have charged that amount when I was starting out, but you're getting someone with 20 something years experience. So I sort of feel like it's for me, like when I prep for a Zoom, it's not just that 1 hour or, 1.5 hours on the Zoom. I'll spend 3 or 4 days leading up to the Zoom, going through all their work, looking at their Pinterest boards, getting into their head, going into their site photos, looking from that bedroom window out to that space. I'm not just giving, flippant feedback. I'm actually really taking it seriously and putting my all into it. So
Yeah. You might be back at the $20 an hour if you're recording how much work you
I
put
don't think
into
I
it.
haven't actually started doing my time on that. I need to, but yeah, my goal is to make sure that people who are on the program get the end result of a scaled garden concept plan that I know is going to work when they get it installed or they do parts of it themselves. And
Yep.
that's my goal.
Yeah.
And that I want them to enjoy the process. And, surprisingly, there's probably been about 3 or 4 people afterwards who say to me on each course, oh, I'm actually thinking of doing garden design, or I've just enrolled in horticulture.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
I would have loved this program when I was starting out.
Yeah, that's what you want to do is make something that you would have liked to have used.
Yeah, you know, because really we're not doing it for the money. We're not in horticulture and this industry for the money. There's more lucrative businesses out there.
Yep.
We're doing it because we love it, and it is a beautiful industry and people really do give back. So
Yeah.
it has that.
Speaking of giving back, you've given me a code to use as well, and I said to you beforehand I haven't had many codes, so I'm pretty
Oh,
excited.
you're
So
more than welcome.
if people buy it and they use Joel 20, they get how much? What
They get
percent?
20% off.
Makes sense. I was going to
So
say, but just yeah, yeah. So that's and is it 1997? Is that how much it is? The full.
yeah, so the full price is just under the $2,000, 1997, and then with the discount, of 20%.
Yeah.
And then there's the other course, which is a native boundary screening, which is normally $97, and it'll be 20% off that.
Yeah. Nice. Yep.
So, and I'll also apply it once the new course comes out as well for you. Once I launch the plant selection, that will probably be somewhere around 475 or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. Like
So,
when you. So what is that? About 16, less than $1,600. Like when you're thinking of it like that. it's not a lot for what you're going to get out of it.
No,
And
yeah.
then people might, like you say, people might design their own garden, realize they love it, so they'll do their friend's garden. Next thing you know, they're
Well,
doing full-time
absolutely.
study.
Well, I've got people who have got Airbnbs and investment properties are on there. That's all tax deductible. Then you've got, one person is doing three people's gardens on it.
Yeah,
They're
right.
doing their mum and dad's and their friends, and like they're getting maximum value out of it. And yeah, so yeah, there's no doubt that you're getting good value. You do have to put in the time. So there's an element of you have to put in and, watch the modules, watch the videos and do the action items. But if you're interested in it, yeah, I think it's a really good program.
And could you be good with stats, like you can see, like when people are using the course and how much they're getting
Yeah.
out of it?
Yeah, so I can see behind where they're at in the modules, and they've got lifetime access, which is really good.
Oh, yeah.
So even though the course goes for 12 weeks, they've got lifetime access to the actual course material and the Facebook group. Well, I haven't put a time frame on that. I'm just leaving that open at the moment. So people who have been with me, are still in there and all that. So I sort of feel like at the moment with gardens, and I also noticed this when I was running the design studio, some projects take quite a few years, don't they?
Yeah.
They're not all done in one hit. So I didn't want to leave people by themselves for that period if their project is taking longer than expected or if life happens and they need to stop. So at the moment, we're managing that it's just ongoing, but yeah, I will have to tailor back if there's too many people, but at the moment it's working quite nicely.
Yeah, because they might, like, say, buy a new property and they're going to build a house on it, they get all excited, so then they buy the design course and but then they want to refresh it later on. So,
Yeah, or they buy another property, then they get to still use the same, technically it should be, it should be one. I try and encourage them on that particular course for the 12, or sorry, the 6 Zooms over 12 weeks. I want you to focus just on one property. Now you can use that course for another property, or if you're in the industry, you can use the course to help you with your own projects that you've got going on. But just to keep you focused on one and apply the learnings in the course on one project. And then once you've had that success, then you can do what you like with it.
yeah, yeah, I think it sounds awesome. I love it. Last question for you, Kathleen, is who do you think
Yeah.
would be a good guest to have on the podcast?
Oh, there's so many, but there's someone who have followed for a while, and I also met her at a landscape design conference quite a few years ago, and her name is Nicola Cameron from Peppo Botanic Design. She's up in New South Wales. And what I found interesting about her was that she runs a design business plus a maintenance arm. And, we were often, when I met up with her at a conference, we were talking about managing workflow and people when you've got a big team of, and she introduced me to Workflow Max, which was a software. So I think she would actually be really good because I think that's an interesting arm of, because your gardens are only as good as how they're being maintained as well.
100%, yeah. It's all teamwork. It's a
Yeah.
design, construction, and maintenance.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've had her on or
I
not,
have
but she
not,
would be
but I
worth
will look her
having
up.
on. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. Absolutely love chatting to you, and I loved what you're doing with the course. I think it's an awesome idea. So thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story.
Oh, you're welcome. And reach out if you've got any questions regarding, your course and setting it all up. I'm happy to share. No worries at all.
I certainly will. I'll be getting that link off you of that of yeah, that
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. No worries, Joel. Great talking to you.